Hello folks, and welcome to the video quiz about the frontier. So let's get started. Alright, what is it, or what was it? It was an imaginary line that separated the east and the west of the United States. It was always moving westward. So for example, when we were just the 13 colonies, the frontier was that region a little westward out by the Appalachian Mountains. And as we expanded westward, the frontier kept moving westward until it eventually got all the way to the west coast. Now, that's geographically speaking. Metaphorically speaking, it was an imaginary line in our minds between civilization and wilderness, the land that Anglo-Saxons civilized, and the frontier was the land that was inhabited by savage Indians to be tamed. All right. So throughout American history, the line shifted further and further west. Why is it so important? Well, many Americans viewed it as an opportunity. In fact, to most Americans, it was a safety net or a safety valve, meaning if you failed economically on the East Coast, some sort of economic catastrophe, you could always pack everything up and move out west. Go west, young man. All right, so it was kind of like unemployment insurance before the New Deal. You can go out there and either squat on a farm, not any legal claim to it, so to speak, a title or anything, but squat on it or purchase a homestead from the U.S. government and start a farm out in the frontier. All right. So it was the idea that people could always move to the frontier in times of economic crises. In reality, many did not take advantage of the frontier, but it represented optimism. It was also this symbolic source of pride for Americans. It was kind of this evidence in our mind that we were spreading civilization and proper religion and proper democratic values and our superiority to those who were not gifted with such things. All right. So for the first time in 1890, the census. Why is that important? For the first time in U.S. history, the frontier line was no longer visible. What that means is the frontier was closed. We had gotten all the way to the west coast. So what contributed to the decline of the frontier? Meaning there was none. So what I'm asking really is why did we settle out west as much as we did? Well, first you've got to talk about manifest destiny, which isn't in the PowerPoint, but the belief that it was our God-given destiny to spread our religion, our civilization, our way of life westward. Just this expectation, this seeming feeling of inevitability when it came to our move westward. In fact, we at times, as you may know, thought that Cuba, Canada, Central America would become part of the United States. All right, so this mass migration out west, both to start anew and to civilize those who have not been gifted by such things. There was also the gold rush in 1849, hence the name of the football team, the 49ers, that populated California or portions of California almost overnight. And the Homestead Act of 1862, in which the government encouraged people to purchase a homestead from the government on very inexpensively, purchase a farm from the government. All right. Also, there were speculators, people who would buy the land and expect the price to increase, thereby selling it at a greater price. All right. Guys like Andrew Jackson and many of the original founding fathers were this, by the way, speculators, land speculators. All right. The frontier thesis. There was a famous book written by Frederick Jackson Turner called Significance of the Frontier in American History, published in 1893, in which he posited or argued that the frontier, as I have said, was a source of pride for us. All right, and once the frontier closed, we had kind of this national depression, this national moment of panic. Like what made us proud to be Americans was no longer there. What were we going to do? All right, so the end of the frontier, in his view, was a unique era in U.S. history. So, in his view, the frontier contributed to the American identity, what it meant to be an American. All right, and in our minds, it helped make us different from Europe. So it contributed to this notion of American exceptionalism, this whole city upon a hill. We were spreading the city upon a hill throughout the world. All right, so the effect of the end of the frontier, many historians argue, the closing of the frontier helped lead to overseas expansion. We got to the West Coast. It was kind of like, well, what do we do now? So we went over to Asia. We went down to the Caribbean. Also, by the way, just a little effect, a little one, of all this expansion. Native Americans lost much of their land, their way of life, and their lives. So be sure to take the quiz that will pop up right now.